with that, I think we are ready for questions.
I have one question that says, how long does it take for a spore or a group of spores to grow enough to produce a fruiting body for a morel or another mushroom?
Yeah, that really depends. So from that spore, first they have to find the suitable conditions, develop those hyphae, find enough nourishment to create the network that will become the mycelia. And then from there, it would be dependent on the moisture that is available, the temperatures that are available. And so for the most part, on the perfect condition, a network of this hyphae can develop in 7 to 14 days. But the fruiting mushroom, the fruiting body, can take 3 to 14 days too, depending again if we get cold temperatures this weekend here in central Iowa. We had wonderful temperatures, but then the next 2 days we have cool conditions that will impact the development of that mushroom and how fast it will form and develop.
All right. Another question that we had was, you mentioned harvesting above ground and leaving dirt behind. What are the benefits to harvesting that way?
Well, once you are harvesting above ground, one, that is really recommended a lot for morels. It will allow you to check if they are hollow. If you are identifying a brand new mushroom, then you want to, a brand new mushroom that you don't know, then I will recommend to harvest using a trowel around the base and then getting rid of that debris, that soil. So the main benefit is that you're not carrying any soil with you. The soil is a very rich environment. There's a lot of bacteria and fungi and a lot of other microorganisms like yeast that are present in the soil. And so, they're not there necessarily as a harmful organisms, but given the conditions, if a little bit of soil will get into the pits of the morels or, mushroom on the surface of a mushroom, and there are conditions conducive like humidity in a plastic bag, or the mushrooms were not properly refrigerated as soon as possible, then there's the possibility that some of that organisms that were in the soil and that were transferred into the mushroom will then cause decay on the mushroom.
Another question that we had, Lena, was, oh, I just lost it here. Is there anything that we can do that might help with next season to guarantee we might have more mushrooms, like leave some behind or disperse spores, etc.?
Well, that's a really good question, and I have heard a lot of mushroom, especially morel mushrooms, hunters will use mesh bags and with the thought that you're sprinkling spores. It's a hard question on what are the practices that you could do, because there is a lot of factors. It depends on the levels of nutrients that woodland or that area currently have. The next season will be impacted by how many nutrients there are available. Also, it will be impacted by the temperature. Temperatures that we experience, the humidity, the composition of the plants that are present on that woodland or location. So it is hard. I think, if you want to leave things behind, I would say always make sure that you're looking at what you're harvesting. The best opportunity to look behind, and I think of morels, is before you pick it, look at it and look for signs of decay. If it has odd color, something fussy, something slimy, leave it behind. That will be a good way to not take a risk and take something with you that is rotted, but it will leave those spores available in the area too. So that will be something to think about. And other than that, it's all about that sustaining mycelia, that network of hyphae that stays in the soil and in the forest ground. For example, last year when we had all those floods, the flooding waters moved a lot of soil around, and that caused a disturbance. So there's so much that we cannot control when it comes to wild mushroom production.
Another question we had, and I know we discussed this in the program that you had with us with the garden show, but somebody posted, what's the best way to find an experienced hunter to team up with if we are nervous about going out alone? So I know one thing that we did discuss were there are a couple different Facebook groups, especially in Iowa, and I'm sure there are in other places specifically for morel hunting. That usually you can find people that are pretty experienced in hunting and you can team up with them or learn a little bit from them. But I don't know if you had a little bit more that you wanted to add to that one, Lena.
Yeah, I think I've been checking out a lot of the social media groups. Kind of curious to see how they do different things, and I've been very surprised. There are some very good ones. They keep track. They post really good photos, good identification. I feel that a mushroom club will be a good thing. I have heard of the Prairie States Mushroom Club, but I think that is in eastern Iowa. So I think that networking with people, when people come for trainings with the certification, some of them network that way. I think that if you want more training, there is so much more out there, and we'll be having 2 more webinars like this, and you will have that publication with you. You can download it and have it in your phone, or you can get a paper copy. So there is, a lot of searching that you could do. I personally have been very happily surprised with the iNaturalist, because their system of expertise becoming an observer to an identifier, it's kind of really cool. Like, people that actually know, it's almost like you can have your virtual identifiers out there for you to help you out. So I really have enjoyed the iNaturalist and recommend it. If you cannot find, a mushroom club near you, that could be an option.
Yeah, somebody did post about asking if we could start an iNaturalist group. Anybody is welcome to start an iNaturalist. I don't know if it's necessarily a group as much as you just do some posting in there and kind of follow the posts. But it is a free app you can download on your smartphone or tablet, anything like that, that you can access. So it is a pretty nice device. Somebody else did ask, what is the proper way to clean your mushrooms? Do you use salt water?
Oof. Well, I must confess something. I am one of those individuals that is highly sensitive to mushrooms. I have tried small amounts of different ones, and tried to incrementally consume more, but they do cause me some gastrointestinal distress. So therefore, I am not the most savvy or the best person to recommend. If Julie, if you're around and you have a better answer, please.
Hold on here. Hi, everyone. Julia Lass here, and I'm a morel hunter up here in beautiful northwest Iowa, Woodbury County. Cleaning the morels. Some people, if they're, this time of year when it's early and you're not in too buggy of a woods, a lot of people will use a fine brush, like what you would use to remove the silks on a corn cob or something like that for your sweet corn. You don't want to use a brush that will damage the mushroom. Other people will soak those morels. Some folks say that if you soak them too long, it takes the flavor out. You just have to be careful. I will lightly soak my morels just because all those little pores, sometimes you'll get some little friends, some bugs along for the hike. So it does help to slice them in half, make sure nothing is living inside that hollow part, and then give them a soak for, I soak mine at least a half an hour just to make sure I got all the bugs out of them. Hope that helps.
Thank you,
No,
Julie.
that was great. Let me see. There is another one about if you want to leave the base, if you leave the base, will the mushrooms grow back in the same spot instead of pulling them up?
Well, yeah, so the base is connected to that network of mycelia. underneath, but eventually that tissue will not produce any spores. So the aspect of dispersion is not as powerful as when we're talking about a spore right there at the base. It's more of a, if you think of a plant, it's just like the base, the crown, or the stem on a plant, and it won't really be, it's not like you can take a cutting, if you will. So the mycelia, though, that network that is invisible and behind, like is stretched across the soil, will remain in there and will remain productive in the woods as far as there's nutrients and in good conditions. I hope I answered the question, but let me know if I didn't.
Yeah, definitely let us know in the chat if you need some more to the answer for that. Another one, somebody did just ask if we did cover the commonly named beefsteak mushroom in the presentation.
Yeah, we talked about some of the Gyromitras, two of them, the Caroliniana and the Brunnea. But the beefsteak is the Brunnea. And yes, we did cover it. Did you have some questions about it?
They just wanted to know if we went over it, so we'll just see if they have any questions on that. Okay. Somebody did ask, will this rain help morel growth? The area's been pretty dry where they are.
Yes, I think it's gonna help, but I'm also kind of hoping for a little bit of a warmer temperature because it has fall a little bit overnight, and that will have an impact. So I am here myself just because I love to go out and take photos of mushrooms and just, learn new ones, that it will warm up and it will stay a little bit more consistent than it has been so far.
All right, this looks like it might be the last question, so in case we didn't cover anything, feel free to jump in there. Somebody said that I heard that it might be possible to grow morels at home. A lot of people have seen some kits. They were just wondering if that is something that is possible or not.
I can tell you it's possible. It really depends on the strain that is used. I have heard a lot of people in different places where they have isolated the right strain and they have success after a lot of failure. I myself cannot tell you that I have tried one of those kits. And if I may cast again, so the big thing here is with morels, the problem is that you have to know on your strain how is that you're going to modulate the step from a sclerotium, from that resting body, to the ascoma, to the fruiting body. And so there are strains that will remain repeating from sclerotium to mycelium, from mycelium to sclerotium, and not fruit, not produce that ascoma. So that's what morels in general are not as reliable when it comes to indoors production, but I have heard that it is possible.
Another question that we had was, is there a way to do a spore print, and what is it?
Yes, so the way you do it, normally spore prints are recommended for those that are in the group of Basidiomycota that will have those caps. So what you'll do is you'll have the cap, you'll detach it. I will recommend that first you document the shape, all the parts, the attachment of the gills to the stem, if there's teeth or spores, or pores. And then you use different papers. I like to use white, blue, and sometimes pink. And I will cut different strips of that and kind of tape it. And then you'll put the cap facing down, so the gills are facing down. And then, in a couple of hours, some of them are very prolific and drop the spores right away. Some of them you have to give them maybe 6 to 12 hours so that you get to see the color of the spores, It could be a dark, it could be pink, it could be green, it could be kind of lilac. And then from there, if you have a microscope available, you can then pick up some of those spores and look at the different characteristics of the spores that very often are very helpful when you're trying to identify between two different lookalikes.
And then another question that we had here was, could you help them understand how to identify the teeth of the mushroom?
Yeah, I don't have any with tooth right here. Just trying to think. But for sure, I think it's going to be on the other parts. I have a couple in mind that will be on the next webinar. Thank you so much for your attention, and please let us know in the survey, what did you like and what else would you like to learn?